Welcome back to the More Than Gardening YouTube channel. If you are new here and haven't seen any of my videos yet, my name is Sam and I garden here in Michigan, Zone 6A. And I started this YouTube channel a few months ago and really documented building out my garden. I've got a video on how we built raised beds, cattle panel trellises, compost bins, and a lot of shorts on actually taking care of the garden, but I realized I never actually posted a tour of the garden or any sort of like final product of the garden being built. So it's the last week of June. It's a really nice day. It's super sunny here. We've had a lot of rain the last few days, so everything is looking so good. So I figured, why not take this opportunity to film a June garden tour? And if you like this video and you enjoy it, let me know and maybe I'll film one every month of this garden season or maybe more frequent. But without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right in and give you a little tour. So this is kind of an overview of the main garden, and I will get to this because it is the main event. But before I do, I want to start with this little garden bed that is fully shaded right now because this is how I had my first ever garden last year. So this is my second year gardening, and I started with this bed last year and it actually extended to here, but we removed this portion this year to make room for the compost bins, which I will show you. And it was just really old and rotting away, so we removed it. So this is the first bed here. It doesn't get the best sun. I mean, you can tell right now it's about 12 in the afternoon and it's fully shaded, so I don't know how well things will do this year. I was able to get a good enough harvest last year and a good enough production, but this definitely isn't like my favorite place to garden. But in here I will show you guys, I have a zucchini plant, sunflowers, romaine, zucchini, sunflowers, so it kind of just alternates. But overall, I guess I'll just show you this shot here. I've got 5 zucchini plants in here and they're spaced out like, that might even be like 2 feet because they are such big plants when they start producing. So this is probably my best space bed. You will see as I get into the rest of the tour. I plant very, very densely, but this one, for whatever reason, I decided to give them lots of room. So now moving on to everything we built this year. Give you an overview. There are 8 raised beds here, so I'm just going to start on this one and we will do a little loop around the entire garden. And I've got an in-ground space way in the backyard that I will show you too. So this first bed is my potatoes. And I decided to do russet potatoes because that is my favorite type of potato. That is the type of potato that we eat the most. And you can see that these look so crazy. So russet potatoes are indeterminate, so they will keep growing up the stem. So you're supposed to plant them pretty deep in trenches and then hill them or bring the dirt up along the sides as they grow. These grew like, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet within the first month, and I did hill them once. And then ever since then, they've just gotten really out of hand. And I might come through and hill them again with some straw. You can see the first time I used soil and a little bit of straw, but I might just let them go. This bed has turned into a little bit of chaos, but I think it's gonna be just fine. So moving on from this bed over to this one. This is one of my favorites. This is my onion bed, and I've never grown onions before, but I'm really happy with so far how they're turning out. So I've got about, I think I want to say like 48 onions in here, half yellow, half red onions, and they have just recently started to bulb. You can see this one, this yellow onion is really bulbing there. This one here, and these are all spaced about 6 inches. The red onions are bulbing as well. This one, these get really tangled up in the wind. I don't know if any of you guys grow onions, but I mean, you can see they're just, this is a mess. But the camera in here, this one looks so good and so big. I love it. The red onions this entire season have done way better than the yellow onions. I started all of them from seed inside back in late January, and it was like from the very beginning the red onions grew faster the entire way. So they started bulbing first. The yellow one's a few weeks behind, but I do think I'll probably end up with the same size onions by the end. I'm hoping. Also in this bed, alongside this cattle panel trellis, is I planted some cantaloupe, and they have just been destroyed. You can see, I don't know if it's a mixture of probably a mixture of slugs and roly-polioles, but I really tried to get rid of them with cinnamon and sluggo, but nothing's really working. I've got one plant here that's like hanging on for dear life. I think this one's gonna make it. Those ones probably not. This one probably not. So that was potatoes. This is my onion bed with my cantaloupe. I've got grow bags along there I'll get to in a minute, but first I want to go over to this raised bed. This is the first of 3 raised beds full of tomatoes. And this one, I know what you guys are gonna say. It looks crazy. It is super densely planted. It's a forest. And I'm aware, but I think it's gonna be okay. So far it's really going okay. This is all Roma tomatoes, and I have 15 here in this 4x8 bed. And I am not pruning any suckers off my Romas because they're determinate tomatoes, but I am pruning these bottom leaves. So I'm keeping everything clear on these stems. So like you can see right here, I pruned off a lateral branch, another one here, and I do that to all my tomato plants so that none of the leaves and pretty much none of the leaves touch the ground, because I don't want them picking up any disease. So I have 15 in here, and we will see if they get, every tomato plant ends up getting blight at some point in the season. Will they get them sooner because there's so many? I don't know. Another concern people have with planting so densely is nutrients, because you need enough nutrients for all the plants to thrive. But I packed these raised beds with really high quality soil, compost that I bought from a landscaping company, compost I made myself, a little bit of cow manure that I purchased, which was a little weird, but I do think it's working. And then there's a lot of slow release granular fertilizer mixed into the soil. And that's like really it. I think I used liquid fertilizer like one time so far, but so far everything's looking good. So I'll link below in the description some of these fertilizers that I've been using and what's been working. But so far, I have not seen any signs of nutrient deficiency, even though they're planted so densely. So plant spacing might be a myth. Interplanted with my tomatoes, some companion planting I did is I have marigolds all on the outsides, and then I also have some basil. This is like your regular old, I don't know, Italian or just normal basil, I'm not sure. This is Thai basil. Got another Thai basil here, which is kind of putting on these flowers that I'm just gonna pinch off so that it doesn't bolt. You can see another basil there, another marigold, and I have not had any pest problems yet with any of my tomato plants. Honestly, not very many of my plants at all have had any pest problems, and I think that's because of all of the marigolds. They give off like a scent that insects do not like, and it'll ward off a lot of pests that commonly go to tomatoes. With that said, they haven't put on like so much fruit. We're not in that big like tomato producing like time frame yet for the plant. So like, what are those called, hookworms or hornworms? I think hornworms have not been an issue yet, but they might later on the season. So for now in June, no pest problems. This tomato bed, I also have cantaloupe. So this is a cantaloupe plant, and then I have green beans as well. So beans and onions supposedly are not friends, so I did not plant any green beans with my onions here, but I did do them over here with the tomatoes. So all along the base of this trellis, alternating is cantaloupe, green bean, and so on. And eventually, hopefully, maybe by next time I give a little garden tour, this will all fill out and be growing up the trellis. Moving on to the next bed, I'll start with the trellises here. Again, green beans growing, but I've also, instead of doing cantaloupe like the other ones, I have cucumbers, and I have a mix of pickling cucumbers and your classic like Marketmore like long, I think like English cucumber maybe. I will also link all of the seeds that I bought that I'm growing this year in the description, so you guys can see exactly what varieties these are, but that is alternating on these trellises. Something that I don't think I mentioned, every single plant that you see here in this garden has been grown from seed, either directly sown into the garden or started inside like months and months before planting out, with the only exception being this specific variety of marigolds. I had a hard time with my marigolds for a while, so I ended up just buying some from the local TSC, but I can proudly say that these are the only plants that I had to purchase. Everything else this year has been started from seed. So again, these are my Roma tomato plants. Over here, I have a mixture of beefsteak and Cherokee tomatoes. And then again, the companion plants that I have. Ooh, check this out. This basil plant looks beautiful. I mean, we've got some holes. It's a little pest damage on the basil, but look how thick and luscious. I want to harvest this soon. Okay, so again, basil and marigolds all interplanted, cucumbers, green beans, and these tomatoes, just like the Romas, I do trim up so that about a foot is clear on the stem, so no leaves touch the ground and pick up any disease. But I'm also pruning the suckers. So you can see right here, this is where a sucker was pruned. Right here, there's a one kind of growing. I'm gonna pull that. For my indeterminate varieties, like these beefsteak and cherry tomatoes, I am pruning the suckers. Suckers grow at a 45-degree angle between the lateral branches and the main stem. You can leave them if you want, it's totally optional. But again, I am planting so densely. This bed has 15 tomato plants in a 4x8, so I don't have room for extra suckers. I don't want them, so I'm pruning them. Most of the tomato plants in here do have little tomatoes on them. Check that out. And I did a terrible job of labeling what each plant is. I know I have Cherokee purples and beefsteaks in here. I don't know what is what, but I'm willing to bet that's a Cherokee purple just from the shape and the coloring. I will show you over here. This one looks different. Thinking that's a beefsteak. Hopefully by the next tour, these will be, I don't know, ready to pick or just further along and we can see if I was right. Over here is my last bed of tomato plants, another 15. These are the San Marzano tomatoes. And on the trellis here, we changed it up again, still green beans, but then I've added acorn squash. All of the tomatoes were started from seed inside, but everything on these trellises, so the green beans, the cucumbers, the cantaloupe, the squash, those were all direct seeded. So acorn squash, green bean, and so on. And check out, this is my first time growing green beans and these tendrils growing up. I mean, look how beautiful that is, the way it wraps around. The way they just know, oh, let's look at this one. Okay, this one's not as good, but it'll be there soon. But the way they just know to do this is so cool. Again, 15 tomatoes. These are all my San Marzanos. I use these for salsa. I will can these later this season once they start becoming ripe. But again, just 3 rows of 5 held up by a Florida weave. This is the other side of the San Marzanos. It is just a forest. I'm absolutely loving the Florida weave for the trellis. I hate tomato cages. I used them last year and it made the tomatoes like all suffocated, but you can see that these lines, this Florida weave just keeps them up nice and straight and allows for so much airflow, and the leaves and the branches can go wherever they want. With the cages, I feel like they end up bending branches up. And look at the tomatoes. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for these. It shouldn't be long. And the only other thing different with this tomato bed is I did add some romaine lettuce between these plants, but we've had a lot of wind lately and they're not doing good. They don't stand straight up. This is one of my pepper beds. Again, this is just an 8-foot by 4-foot bed. And I have 28 pepper plants in here. A lot of people say that is too many, but I have packed these beds with nutrients, with good quality soil, compost, manure, fertilizer, like everything. And so far these peppers are showing absolutely no signs of nutrient deficiency. And because they're packed so densely together, on these really windy days, when they start to kind of lean, they end up holding hands with each other, and I haven't had any plants like bend over and break. So planting like this is really working for me so far. And check out these banana peppers. I'm gonna probably harvest these like any day now. I mean, they're everywhere. And then interplanted with these again is the marigolds for pest control. I've had no pest issues, no aphids, not really anything with the peppers yet. And then I also have dill. This is a nice dill plant. Actually, 3, 4, 5. How many did I plant in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 dill plants there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I don't know, another 6 here. And then I've got this huge bunch of cilantro. These are cilantro seeds I started just maybe a week ago because I'm gonna harvest this soon. And then I'll want, you know, fresh cilantro after that. And over here, more cilantro, more marigolds, more cilantro that's coming up. I like to do a nice little row. It just looks neat and clean, and you really don't need to do any thinning with cilantro. So, I mean, this was like a whole row of seeds. And look how good it is. And then in here, so this one's all banana peppers, jalapenos. I mean, look how good they're looking. Quite a few on this plant, and then poblanos. Look at that one. This is my hand. So that's pepper bed number 1. This is pepper bed number 2. Again, 28 pepper plants. Got marigolds, got dill on the border, got more cilantro over here on the border, and this one has bell peppers in it. Look how big. Oh, this makes me so excited. Bell peppers and jalapenos in this bed for peppers. And again, you can see all the cilantro. I really like growing the cilantro next to the peppers because I use them together in salsas. So, and I think they also ward off some pests with their stench, but I don't know that for sure. And again, these jalapenos are the Megatron variety from Botanical Interest. I will link them below, and I've got a code if you want to save some money, but look how big they are. And this one's not even done growing. And that's my hand. And here too at this one. And look at those bell peppers. Look at this jalapeno. Oh, these are doing so good. And again, more marigolds, more dill. I don't think I've said this, but every single bed is mulched with straw. I use this to help the soil retain moisture, and it also suppresses some weeds. There are some weeds that grow, like this is probably a seed from the straw. It claims it's 99% seed free, but it's never gonna be perfect. But whenever I see a weed, like here, I just pull it. It's not that bad. Weed control has been really, really easy this year. I really recommend using this straw. So these are the 2 pepper beds. These were the tomatoes with the trellises. Now I have this little section here, and those were the russet potatoes where we started. So we've done a bit of a little loop. These grow bags, I have marigolds. You'll literally see them everywhere. These are my Thai chilies, and look how many there are. I've got 2 plants here, and they just stick straight up. I've never seen like a pepper plant do this, but they're so tiny. I think this is normal for Thai chilies. So super productive here. These are cayennes in this grow bag. I do 2 pepper plants per 10-gallon grow bag, and it's been working so far. So let's check out those cayennes. Pretty good size. Do with those. This is oregano. The oregano has been struggling. I recently fertilized with a little liquid fertilizer mixed into the water, and that kind of like kicked it into gear, but I'm not gonna lie, the oregano is not a superstar for me, but that's okay. Over here I have a serrano plant. I wanted more serranos this year. I wanted like 2 or 3 plants, but the seeds I started, not all of them took, and I just ended up with really just 1 strong plant when it was time to plant out in the garden, and didn't want to buy a plant, so we'll just take this one. It'll be more than enough. And then this is another bell pepper just in the bag with the serranos. This is another grow bag of oregano. And then this one, these 2 grow bags, both again 10 gallons, and they have 2 shishito pepper plants each in them. And then here is my Birdies bed from Epic Gardening. I love this raised bed. We built all these wooden ones, and it was such a task. Like, my fiance is incredible. He gave up so much time to build these for me, and then I assembled this one in like less than 30 minutes. So if you don't have like the time commitment to build raised beds, I highly recommend these ones from Epic Gardening. I'll leave a link below, but it is so pretty, and it is such a good size. So I'm using it for all of my flowers. These really beautiful flowers you see blooming are snapdragons, and I started these from seed back in January at the same time that I started my onions. So they had a really big head start, and you can tell because they are going absolutely crazy in this bed. And the colors, I think this is Orange Wonder from Botanical Interest. I will leave a link below if you guys want to grow these next year, because I mean, clearly I love this color. Look what I'm wearing, but just, oh, they're beautiful. And then I started other seeds in here kind of late. I'm probably going to start more flowers inside next year to transplant because they're taking forever, but those are zinnias there. The zinnias are getting eaten. I don't know from what. I'm not like super concerned because it's not like my vegetables that I want to eat. It's kind of just for, whoa, okay, I am concerned. Don't know what's doing that, but whatever. These are my zinnias. This is called, I think, a bachelor's button. I'm growing them because the name sounded nice, and I think they're white. They're kind of getting eaten too. Okay, so now we're back to the russet potatoes. Took you guys all along this circle. These are our compost bins. We built these. They look crazy right now because these are all the tomatoes I just pruned the other day, but I do have a video on my channel of how we built these. If you guys want to do the same, using compost in the raised beds gives so much nutrients to the soil, and compost and soil is so expensive. So if you're building out a garden like this or maintaining a garden every year, I highly recommend like having your own compost, making your own compost, because It's really good for your plants, and it's also really good for your wallet because it's so expensive. Along this fence line, I have some grow bags, and this one is marigolds for pest control, and then tomatillo. And check this out, I've never grown tomatillos before, but I'm assuming, I mean, this will be the tomatillo. They have all these flowers, and I think it's like a male female flower thing because you need more than one tomatillo next to each other to pollinate. So this is actually gonna be the tomatillo. They're just now starting to bloom. I think I started these seeds inside at the same time as the tomatoes, so like April, I think 4 weeks before my last frost, and they're doing so good. I've got 5. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 6, but this one broke in a windstorm. I left it in because I thought the flowers would still be beneficial for pollination for the other plants, but I don't know, it might just be sucking up water and nutrients that this other plant could have. This row of grow bags is all my greens. I just pulled, these are both just different lettuce varieties, and I just pulled them because they bolted. We had a heat wave last week, but then I did start new seeds. So you can kind of see them. You can kind of see the seedlings emerging. This one I have harvested from quite a few times. It's just like a cut and come again lettuce. And it's like every couple weeks I just cut it all down, we eat it for a week, come back, cut more. This one has been great. These two here again bolted last week, so I took them out and put new seeds in. You can kind of see them emerge. Same thing here. This was spinach that I just took out, put new seeds in. And I will say I'm using all grow bags for my greens this year because last year slugs absolutely destroyed my lettuce. They were in that raised bed that I showed you guys in the beginning, and it was just like not worth it. Like the slugs would get to the greens before me. So I've tried grow bags this year, and I've had 0 slug damage. Like the slugs, they can't get through them because they're lined grow bags, and I don't know if they can't climb up the sides. I'll show you guys them. I don't know if they just can't climb up or they just don't know to, but if you have a slug problem with like any crop, I highly recommend grow bags because this has been the best defense against them. And then these last 3 are kale, and we have harvested quite a bit from here, but I mean, then the cabbage worms came. I fought them for a little bit. I would come out here and I would pull them from each leaf, but it's like once they lay their eggs, once the cabbage moths lay their eggs, you're screwed. Like they will win. So these are all my grow bags. These are the raised beds. I'm gonna take you down here to one other section and my one little attempt at in-ground gardening. I love the raised beds because they're so much easier to tend to. You don't have to like bend over so far to be working in the garden. Mine are 8-inch boards stacked 3 high. Their nominal dimension is like 7 1/4, so they're 21 3/4 inches tall, so just a little under 2 feet, and it's so much nicer on your back than in-ground gardening. But this is my one in-ground gardening spot. This was where we used to do our compost, but it's so close to the lake that it's really not good to compost near bodies of water, so we moved the compost up, and now I'm using this spot to do pumpkins and butternut squash. You can see little groupings there, there. Some were direct seeded, some I started in like little seed cells on my deck and then transplanted in here. And for the life of me, I don't know what is a pumpkin and what is a squash because, again, I didn't label anything. And walking over here, this is not part of the garden, but it is part of, well, I don't know, it is part of the garden. Part of the environment is the beehive. We got these bees a little over a month ago, and they're doing so well. And I just love to come out and sit here and just watch them. Sometimes you can see like little like yellow bits on their hind legs, and that's pollen that they've gone and collected from a flower or a plant or whatever, and they're bringing it back to the hive. And it is just, it's so cool to watch just like nature be nature. So that is pretty much the whole garden space, but there is one more little section I will show you. Well, it's not really a section, it's just 2 potted eggplants that I have. I am growing eggplant for the first time, and I got the seeds sent to me and I didn't want them to go to waste, so I planted them the same time, or I started the seeds inside in January, the same time when I started my snapdragons and my onions, and then I just potted them up into these pots. I want to say they're like 4 or 5 gallon pots maybe, but this is them. I don't have them in the main garden space, but probably gonna move them there soon. This is the jewel amethyst. I think that's how you say it, variety from Botanical Interest, and they've got 1, 2, I think like 3 or 4 on each plant. This one, you know what, this one's got some good sized ones there, but there's probably like 4 or 5 on this plant, but I've never even eaten an eggplant. Now I'm probably gonna have a ton of them from these 2 plants. So you saw the raised beds, the in-ground, the bees, a couple of eggplants, and that is it for the garden. Thank you so much if you got to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I love watching garden tours, and I'm really excited to look back on this tour later this season and next year to see the progress, what's changed, what's working, what's not. If you have any questions or you want to hear more about something that I just briefly touched on in the tour, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I put out a lot of content on beekeeping and gardening, and I can't wait to post more videos throughout this season. If you're not already, please follow me on Instagram at @morethangardening, and I'll see you in the next video.